Hi there. In this example, we're going to be naming points, lines, and planes. The first part of this example asks us to give two other names for line PQ and for plane R. So if we look at line PQ is right here. And there are a couple of points on the line. There's P right here, there's Q, and then there is this lowercase letter which we also use to name the line. So if we want to name the line here, we would call this line N, or what we can do is list the letters for the points in reverse order, and we can call this line QP. Don't forget to put the arrowheads above to show that this is a line and not a segment or array. For plane R, if you notice down in the bottom right corner here, we have this R, which is not a point, which shows that this is plane R right here. If we want to give another name for plane R, we have to use 3 points that are on the plane. M is not a point on the plane. It actually names this line going across here. So if we want to name this, one way we can name the plane is with 3 letters that we choose here for the 3 points. We can call it VSP, or we could call it plane VPT. And there are other names you can give for the plane. For example, we could call it VST or TPV. Just choose 3 points that are on the plane. And here are the solutions that the book gives. Again, line QP or line N, and for the plane, we can call it plane SVT or plane PTV. Now, for the second part of this question, we're going to name 3 points that are collinear. Remember, collinear means 2 or more points that are on a line, and we're going to name 4 points that are coplanar. And again, to remind you, coplanar means 3 or more points that are on a plane. So, if we look, there's only one line that has 3 points on it. Those are points S, P, and T. And remember again, M is not a point. It's naming the line. So we would have to say S, P, and T are collinear. Now for the plane, if we look, we have plane R here, and there are 4 points that are on that plane. That is point V, S, P, and T. But if we look carefully, there is another plane that we can create. Because remember, the plane can be created even if it's not shown here. So this would also be considered to be a plane. If we look at Q, S, P, and T, hopefully you can see that that also creates a plane. So another possible answer here would be Q, S, P, and T. Okay. So again, points S, P, and T are on the same line, so they are collinear. Points S, P, T, and V are on the same plane, so they are coplanar. For this last part of the first example, we're going to use the same diagram and give 2 other names for line ST, and also name a point that is not coplanar with points Q, S, and T. So let's start with the first part of this. It says give 2 other names for line ST. If we look, we have 3 points that are on this line ST, plus we have the lowercase m, so we can name this line M based on the lowercase letter that's at the end, and we can also call this line PT. There are other names we can give for that line. For example, we could call it TS or TP, but they only asked for 2, so we've done that. If we look at points Q, S, and T, we've got Q up here, S here, and T here. And remember, I drew that plane before that showed that Q, S, P, and T were on the same plane. Well, V is not on the same plane as S, P, T, and Q. So in this case, for the second part of this question, we would say that point V is not coplanar with Q, S, and T. All right, thank you.